Hi, I'm Aditi. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most important parts of this entire app, authentication. Before we can build chat features, save memories, or personalize anything, we need a secure way for users to sign up, log in, and have their data linked to their account. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through my complete Supabase Auth setup, creating the project, setting up our profile table, wiring everything into Expo, and building the login, register, and main screens with actual user data. This video is part of my full app building series, which I'll link down below, but you can absolutely watch this on your own if you just want to learn how to use Supabase Auth in Expo. Let's get into it. Alright, so first step, head over to Supabase and create a new project. So I have one right here. I'm going to call this the name of the app that we're using in the series, and just pick a password. It can generate one too. I'm just going to copy that and keep that saved. And let's go ahead and just create this project. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to go into authentication over here. And just because of our testing purposes, right here, if we go into providers, essentially what Supabase does is even when you sign up with email, they want to send the users a confirmation email so that they can like get a verification code in their email, and then they can create the account. But just because we're testing and we want to use like probably a lot of different emails, I'm going to turn the setting off for now, but ideally you would want to have this on. Okay. So once that's done saving, what we're going to do is in Supabase, although it automatically generates this users table for you where it stores like users, which you can see right here, for you to go ahead and store like other specific type of data in there, you would need to create a separate table. So that's what we're going to go create right now. For right now, we won't really touch kind of what's in this table. I mean, we will reference it later in later videos, but for right now, it's just some placeholder database schema. I'm gonna put this in the description box down below, but I'm just gonna copy this into here as opposed to just writing it all from scratch. So if we go in here and we go to SQL editor, here we go. So essentially we're gonna create a table called profiles. This ID is gonna be linked with the user's ID. And when we delete that, this will also get deleted, this profile. But we want basically like a theme setting, like whether it's system or it's light or dark. So for right now, it's just like a placeholder value, but later that'll come into play. We want to enable row level security and then set these different security policies. I'm just gonna skip over this. It's not that that important, but actually the documentation that I used to sort of like make this or set up this authentication in Expo, Supabase has really good documentation for this, which we're going to be referencing actually throughout this video, and they talk about this as well, setting up row level security. So I pretty much use the same thing, but for our purposes, because it's not like a social app, I changed some of the properties on the profiles table. Okay, now, we want this function called handle new user. All this does is basically, it's like a trigger for whenever, or this is the function that runs after the trigger actually. Basically, whenever something is added to the users table, or whenever a new user is created, we want to also insert their information into our profiles table. So that's essentially what this is doing. We're putting in the ID, and then the full name we're getting from when we create the user, we're going to pass this like metadata, this raw metadata, and from that we're going to get the full name property and then upload that in here, as well as like the different time settings. Yeah, and then this is our trigger. So again, after insert. All right, so I'm just going to run this, and it should run with no problems. All right, so now we can step into VS Code. The first thing that we want to do is install the necessary libraries. So that's these right here, this command. Okay, so now that we have that, the next thing that we want to go and do is set up this Expo Secure Store adapter. So this is basically going to store the auth state and make sure that our session is like persisted. So making sure that the actual user's authentication state gets stored. So here, we're gonna create this file right here, lib/supabase.ts. A lot of this we're honestly gonna copy directly from the documentation because, again, like I said before, it's pretty comprehensive and it sort of covers everything. So I'm gonna just do that right here. We're not gonna change a lot in here. Okay, now that we have this, as you can see here, they're mentioning these two env variables, environment variables. So we need to go ahead and actually create that. So I'm gonna jump into Supabase right here and show you guys where you can find that. So for if we go to project overview, we can see right here, we need this project URL and then this API key. So in this env file that I have right here, as you can see, I've sort of set it up already, but there, and then we're just gonna copy and paste the API key into that as well. Yep, okay. All right, so now that that's done, we have a couple more files that we need to pull from this documentation. All right, so we have this set up. So this next part is creating this auth context hook. Again, this is pretty much a straight copy and paste. So I'm gonna create another folder here called contexts, and then we can call this use auth. All right, so this is just setting up these variables that we're gonna reference later to make sure, like, okay, if it's logged in, then we wanna redirect here, so on and so forth. Okay, the final and most important part is gonna be setting up this auth provider, which I will explain in a little bit more detail. So this is gonna go into another folder, providers, and we can just paste that in. Okay. Oh, I called it, sorry. I meant to call it hooks, but I called it context. That's my bad. There. Yeah. Okay, so what this is doing is it's going to, subscribing to the auth state changes. So every time the auth state changes, it's going to console.log this and show us. When we get the app up and running, you guys will see as it does that. And it's going to fetch the profile. So whether we log out, when we log in, it's going to fetch that information from profiles, and it's going to spit that back out to us, which we're going to use. Yeah, okay. So now that that's done, next thing is going to be to go ahead and create the main page. So this is our index page. Now this is the folder structure that we had set up in, I think 2 videos ago is when I set that up. Yeah, but we're gonna change this around a little bit. So we want one for like our main screen. So that's gonna be like chat, the graph view, the list view, and then we want another folder for auth, like that. And this big layout file is where we're gonna include everything. I'm just gonna go to this index and just move it into main right here, because we want that to be protected, right? Like only after the user passes the auth screen should they end up to the index or like the home page. So yeah, here, let's see. What we want to do here is we want to reference, like we use in that context, or like we set up in that context, that profile. And we're going to take this profile, and honestly, all I want to do here is display, I guess we could display it in a text component. We want to display the profile and the user's full name. So if the profile exists, then display their full name. And then underneath that, we want a button that shows or allows us to sign out. So the title is going to be sign out. And we're just going to quickly create. So on sign out button. Press. It's auto completing for me there. There we go. Essentially what we're doing here is calling it, we can set this up as an async function. There. Oh, hold on, we don't. It's the same thing. I'll write it better in this format. Okay, and this is the method, it has auto completing, and if there's an error, then we're going to display that there's an error. So we're going to call Supabase from Supabase the lib file, and over here, so on button, we got to import this. On press, we just want to call on sign out button press. There we go. Okay, so now we can actually start our app. So we're going to run pre-build. And then once that's done, oh, it's looking for the assets that we deleted. We can actually go ahead and get rid of that. That's in here, I'm assuming. Yeah. So we don't need any of these images at the moment. That's a trailing comma. I think this should be good. We can, yeah, all right, let's see. We got rid of it everywhere. Okay, there we go. And then we want to run npx expo start clear. Oh, there we go. And I'm going to open this up in the simulator that I have set up right here. Okay, so of course it's not showing the name yet because we haven't been signed in, but yeah, there we go. So that's our basic route. In here, we're going to change this layout file in a minute as well, so don't worry about this warning right here. Yeah. Okay, so now what we want to do is go ahead and create those different login and register screens. So this is going to be pretty simple. Again, I'm not even going to do any crazy styling on this. Let's see. Yeah, we can call this login. And over here, what do we want? Well, first we want to actually define our different state variables. So const the email field, and this is just going to be like plain text. And we're going to repeat this 3 times for password. And we also want one for loading. There. Okay. And now we can define the function that we want. So that's going to be our function for signing in with the email. This is what we're going to press when we press the login button. This is what function is going to be triggered when we press the login button. So at this point, the first thing we're going to do is set loading to true. It's giving me a try catch block, but we don't really need it. So we can just copy the same format that we did here in the index file for sign out. It's essentially the same thing. So here, oh, I messed this up here. Here we go, false. And then we'll reference this. You can go to sign in with password. To this, we're gonna pass our email, which is gonna be our email field, and then password, which is gonna be our password field, and error signing in. And then once that's done, we can just set loading to false. Okay. Now in here, we actually want our different fields. So I'm just gonna copy and paste this in just for the sake of time. Here we go. It's very simple. I'm not really doing any styling either. Let's make sure we import this. Touchable opacity as well for our button, and this link from Expo Router. Okay, so what this is doing, what is the error? Okay, so register doesn't exist yet, but we can still run this, and let's take a look at what that looks like. Oh, I'll show you guys in a minute. We can, yeah, here. So let's fix this first. Let's make the actual register file, and then once we set up the routing, it'll be easy. So I'm just gonna copy and paste whatever we have in login. Essentially, it's just like two inputs, you know, one for email, one for password, and then this button. The register is gonna be pretty much the same thing, except instead of sign in with email, we can do sign up with email. And similarly, we'll change this to reflect that as well. So we're gonna call this here sign up. And underneath email and password, we want to pass this something called options. In here, we're going to put something called data, and this is where we type in the actual name field. So I'm going to do name, set name. Essentially, this is the raw metadata field that we were looking at in our database earlier. So this is how we get there. That's that. There we go. So error signing up. And then same thing down here, we want to create another field for name. I guess I'll put this above here. Name, and then we don't need any of this. Okay, and what else are we changing? I think that's it. Oh, we want to change this one to sign up with email, and then this one should be to login. So sign in. Okay, so these are our two pages, auth pages. Now, the main thing we want to create, we want to create one more thing for this auth file, which our auth folder here, which is a layout file. So this is going to be very simple. This is just going to be, it's just going to have a stack, essentially. A stack. You can complete this. Let's call this auth layout. And in here we'll have, yeah, there we go. And then the same thing for register, except I do want to show the header just because it'll make it easier for us to identify right now. Okay, so this is the basic layout for this. We're just setting up for whatever's in this folder right now. But the main layout, like the redirection and everything, happens in this right here. So let me get rid of this and let's change up this root layout. Okay, so we're going to define another function called root navigator. And let me see right here. And in this, we're going to reference that same variable we were talking about earlier called isLoggedIn, using that auth context. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to use Expo's protected route features. So we're going to create a stack. And how it works is this protected route essentially has something called a guard, and the guard checks for a variable. And if that variable is true, then it lets you into this specific thing. And if it's false, it lets you into another specific thing. So here is how that one makes sense. Essentially, it's checking, okay, is logged in, is that true? Well, if it is, then we want to return stack.screen, and we're going to return the main index file. And we don't need to show the header, so that's good. And we're just going to copy and paste this, but when it's not logged in, then we want to return auth. So here we go. If we reload, if we reload, it doesn't show anything right now because we actually have to use the root navigator. So for that to make sense, all we're doing here is we're going to plug in. We want to wrap everything in our auth provider first so that all that stuff actually gets initialized. And then we want to we want to put in our root navigator. So that's going to be this. Here we go. You can see that change immediately in this file. So automatically it redirects you to log in, even if I reload. As you can see here, it's telling you that it's the initial session, so the session is still null, which means that the user hasn't logged in. So let's go ahead, let's try it out. Let me sign up. Just call this test. Test 1, 2, 3, whatever. Both these buttons say sign in. Maybe we should fix that. Hold on. Let's call this, okay, sign up. Say have an account, sign in. Okay. There, let's try that again. So test at@gmail.com, and then let's sign up. Okay, what does it say right here? Our auth isn't changed and the user is signed in. Okay, perfect. We're gonna hit not now. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be showing us our homepage, but let's take a look at why exactly it's doing that. I actually, just because we don't have a lot on our screen right now, I'm gonna say that we want to show the header. There we go. Okay, so we can see the user's name and we can see the sign out button. So as you can see, this part is working. Let's see if we can sign out and then sign in this time as opposed to signing up. So sign in, perfect. So this works as well. It's logging right here, our access token. We don't actually need that anymore, so we can like turn off that console.log, but yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect. We can try this, we can go back and we can check that it is being created, both the user in the users table as well as that profile in the profile table. So, okay, here we go, here's our user. And we wanna go ahead and look here underneath profiles, table editor. There we go. So we do have a user and that's linked to their user ID. There we go. And the full name. So this whole thing is working end to end. We're using Expo protected routes. We are using Supabase Auth, and we've built a pretty much complete login flow. And that's the full Supabase authentication setup. From project creation to database structure to secure session handling, using user context and full login register screens, all connected to real data. So if you're following the full app building series, the next video is where things get really exciting. We're gonna start moving on to the actual chat interface and begin integrating real-time streaming AI responses. So that's like Vercel AI SDK, Gemini, etc., etc. But yeah, if you found this helpful, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and check out the playlist linked down below. The source code will also be down there in the description. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.